welcome back to the channel. My name's Anthony and this is my shop. It's been an interesting day already. I called it at 7:59. I said, you guys ready for a fun and exciting day? And it's already been one. So this customer here, 100,000 mile 07 Tahoe, dealer serviced, following the dealer oil change recommendation. She said 10,000 miles is what they were telling her.
She went 12 on this.
She went 12 because they said go 10. And this is why we say go 3, right? This way we can get the customer to show up at 3 and maybe no later than 5. But here you go. Human behavior is pushing the limits when they have no clue what the oil's capable of and the engine, right? So they don't know. So if you don't know, why would you push it?
Yeah.
Like, would you go out and this is why I tell you guys all the time about customers' cars. Do not go out there and performance road test anyone's car unless you know if the engine is full of oil.
Yeah.
You're here for a diagnosis, a drivability, you got to go drive it, right? You need to know how the car works at idle, part throttle, cruise, wide open throttle, and I'm petrified to death not knowing what's in the engine oil before we even do that. So that's my warning to you guys still again, is don't ever do watt or anything unless you know the engine's full. Even like you're trying to bleed a cooling system, if you don't know the engine oil's full, I think it's send a rod because the customer's not taking care of it. So back to this is that low engine oil light is on. The dealer says 10, she went 12. And what's this engine cost to replace? $10,000 if we can't save it?
I don't know. It's 5.3.
Just for a long block.
I don't know what it was.
We'll just call it 10,000 miles. So I was just telling her up there, I said, the dealership's not your friend. The oil life indicators and monitors aren't your friend. And now here I am, after all the bad recommendations and behaviors, now I gotta help this customer and educate him. And that's probably for a junk reman long block, 3,000 bucks.
I don't know. That's not that bad.
Well, anyway, you're not going to sell it to the customer for 3,000.
Oh, absolutely not.
Plus, you got to undress and dress, and then fix all the bad stuff that you're taking off and on.
It's a $7,000-8,000 drop for the customer.
Yeah, we're going to call it. I'm going to just call it 10.
Yeah.
And you know what's cheaper? Coming in and getting your oil changed every 3,000 miles.
Yep.
So now we're going to go from the 530 in this car, and we're going to up it to a 1040 before we move into a Valvoline restore and protect and just see how the engine responds. Who's going to put an engine in it?
I know, but he's getting a full block.
I told him to order a GM crate motor if he can get one, and we'll put it in. Because if we get a reman motor and we didn't have nothing but issues with it, because that's just what the world is today, I don't want to be married to it. I would rather take his motor apart, us rebuild it ourselves, knowing that it's done right, the quality is there, everything was wiped and prepped with good quality parts. I would rather do that. That's how I feel.
I didn't he knew that.
I mean, I already called him. I'm going to keep that.
So then the next customer of the day was an Uber and Lyft driver with 2 flat tires, a Valvoline oil change sticker, and after we kind of got to what we do here when you have 2 flat tires, he finally agreed for us to check it out. Then he said add an oil change to Rachel, and I was like, okay, let me bring it in since he already gave us the okay for the price of the oil change and what it costs to diagnose his tires. I get it into the shop, and then he's asking me a million questions about oil changes and why that this place has this mileage, and you know, I went full synthetic, and I said I understand, you know, I want to be able to drive my car longer than 10,000 miles on an oil change. That's not how the world works today. You're an Uber and Lyft driver, you're beating the crap out of your engine and your oil all day long, and changing your oil at 10,000 miles is a disaster. So I said you need to educate yourself about what's going on or about oil. And obviously he didn't know, and maybe he didn't get the answers at Valvoline. And I just said, hey, we're going to rate it for 3,000 miles. You want to go to 5,000 miles? We're okay with that. Anything past that, you're in the danger zone. Do you understand? And he's like, I just want to be able to drive past 5,000 miles on oil. I'm like, that's not how the world works today. We're here to protect you and your investment. And I said, if you don't understand what I'm saying, go to YouTube and look it all up. You'll see what I'm saying. So, and he still didn't understand. I said, I'm only going to write the sticker for 3,000 miles. Anything past that is on you. No different than this. The dealership wrote it for 10. The engine's self-destructing, and the driver went 12,000 miles. And she's here with a low oil light. You should never be in a shop with a low oil light. Never. That's a major problem, unless your engine's pumping oil out. So now we're going to come up with a prescription for this customer and see, you know, if we could save this car with dealer recommended services, and then the customer overextended it. So back to the other guy where I said 3,000 miles. So after all the back and forth about why we recommend what we do and why we have his best interest, although it's going to cost him more in the short term, in the long term, he's going to save money by not having to buy an engine or put a quart of oil every week in his engine at 22,000 miles. So after I checked his sticker and I said, yes, Valvoline says it's due, you're a little bit overdue. He says he doesn't want to do the oil change, just check the tires out. So I started checking the tires out, sidewall damage, sidewall holes, just about on the wear bars, and that's all. I couldn't help that customer today. So this lady we're going to try and help, but the facts are here in the shop that want to tell you what's good. Even the bearded Ford mechanic is becoming more transparent. Here's another popular YouTuber about oil change intervals and changing the oil weight and specs. So if you're driving a lot, I don't care if you're on the highway all day long. At some point in time, your vehicle is idling. Sometimes you're in traffic. Maybe you're an aggressive driver. You can't push your oil to 10,000 miles or 12,000 miles. You're talking about major catastrophic destruction. And I, for one, don't want to have to sell you a motor. We're not even selling you a motor. We're just advising by your maintenance practices, whoever's been advising you, and your behaviors is now that's why you need an engine. And we don't want to do that. We want to advise you the right ways that keep your engine intact its entire life of the vehicle. And once you start stepping outside of the oil change intervals and our recommendations, you're putting yourself in a danger zone. Is the motor mount broke on this?
It didn't feel like it.
She's going to need to know if it's magnetic ride control in the back too. Okay. So you already know it's air assisted. Now you look for a sensor. So that was 2 customers today that, one, I tried to educate and I couldn't get anywhere. And then this is Rachel's aunt's Tahoe.
Yeah.
So I think she's going to believe the expert and the pro, and she sees exactly what I said to her. Is like, dealership's not your friend. And there's so many people over there dumping their wallet out on the ground, either buying a new car or buying an engine because of their poor maintenance practices. And then the customer's like, oh, well, if they said 10, I should be able to go a little bit more. Human nature is to try and push the envelope, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to push the envelope on an engine that has a low oil condition.
Definitely not.
And an overextended oil change. And it's crazy, right? Look, this Silverado, what year is this Silverado?
I think that's also an 07.
Did he ever ask for an oil change?
Nope.
Did we ever check the oil?
I believe we did, but no, he did not ask.
Just for poops and giggles, pull the oil stick.
Grab me a rag.
And this vehicle has double the mileage.
This is 200.
It says 200,000 mile Silverado.
Hold on, let me get a rag.
He never asked for an oil change, but we're going to courtesy check it. Or did we do an oil change?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I thought he wanted an oil change and a water pump last time he was here.
Nope. Water pump and
Sure about that? Tire diagnosis? Yeah, you changed the oil. See that? My memory's better than all your guys.
I wasn't working.
All right, so Caleb did change the oil on it. Huh?
I did.
Okay.
No, I was thinking of.
But I know for a fact he wasn't here with a low oil light on.
No.
That's a fact.
No, I was thinking of the.
Other red truck that was
Yeah,
here.
the other red one that was just here.
And then we put 530 in this.
Yeah.
So if we don't have a problem, we can't identify a problem. We don't really advise changing what's working based on his environment. So we put 530 in this car. Basically the same engine, right?
It is.
This one with 200K on it doesn't have really any issues.
I was thinking, yeah, this is a 5.3. I was
It's basically the same family class of
I
engine.
was thinking of
It's
the
actually a
4.3 I worked on
4.8.
yesterday.
4853, I don't
Yeah.
care.
The 4853 is the same exact.
I
thing.
know.
We're saying one customer that needs 530 has heavy oil consumption and low oil light. Another customer with double the mileage on it. He's doing the maintenance, this part of it, right? But he's not keeping up on the cosmetic stuff. It ain't the end of the world. I would rather, my budget was tight, make sure that my engine was maintenance the best that it can be.
Absolutely.
You know, and then the cosmetic stuff, circle back to that. But most important is the heart of the vehicle. Take care of it. So don't push your oil changes past 3,000 miles if it's in your budget. And if it's not in your budget, is an engine really in your budget? Ask yourself that question. Is an engine really in your budget for coming in 3 more times a year for an oil change? It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Because if you follow the oil change intervals for manufacturers at 10,000 miles, right? So average person is driving 10 a year now? I don't know.
They said 10 to 12.
So 12,000. So once a year is going to cost you an engine in 3 years for oil consumption or parts coming out of it. Or come in 3 times a year and completely avoid having internal engine failure.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. No-brainer.
I mean, even for you, everybody driving Euros and stuff, we'll call that, if you're going to not the dealership, $200-ish in oil change, $600 a year. That's still cheaper than a $15,000 motor.
Yeah, so Caleb said if you're driving a European or expensive, vehicle, they're all expensive today.
Yeah.
But $200-300 oil changes at Audi, BMW, Mercedes. What else was in here? Was a $300 oil change we looked up? Land Rover.
Well, the one was the Mercedes.
So you're in for $900 a year for just oil changes, not including everything else. In 3 years, when they tell you if you follow their 10 or 12,000 mile oil change that you need an engine, you'd be happy to know that if you came in based on our recommendations, you would completely avoid having to hear you need an engine at $10 or $20, $30,000 or whatever it costs. Then you're just going to go buy a car and you're going to scratch your head and say, well, why did my new car do this? Because that's what they told you to do. If you listen to what we tell you to do, you won't have to worry about buying an engine.